So spring has sprung in Ohio, and that means the phone's starting to ring with stuff like this. We should just be seeing a lot more stuff coming through the shop here in the next month or so. But what we got here is a 73 MGB. So what he's got here is he noticed when he got it out that the oil pressure wasn't as high as it has been. And the charging system light is on, and he was low on coolant. And once he dropped it off, he said also my driver's window keeps knocking itself off track every time I try to use it. And then once I opened the hood, I found out that, you could smell some antifreeze. There's a weep somewhere, and the brake fluid's almost empty. So yeah, it's got a few issues. What we're going to do, first of all, is we're going to verify the oil pressure gauge is reading correctly. And then we're going to go from there. Now, I've actually already verified that the system isn't charging. We're not getting over battery voltage while it's running right at the moment, because that was really easy to do. Next, what we're going to do is verify oil pressure. So I got this gauge here. The US General, only the finest and cheap tools around here. But actually this thing's always been very accurate, so as long as it's working, I'm going to continue to use it. Almost 30 pounds. Now the engine is warm, but it's not really hot. Not what we want to see, but I've seen a lot worse. So seeing almost 30 pounds of pressure there. Ultimately we'd like to see something more like 50. But I do notice that this thing's running quite rich. The oil here, while it is full, isn't real thick, and it does smell pretty much like there's a lot of fuel in it. So what I'm going to do first, change the oil. Get some fresh oil in there and see what kind of pressures we get. Because if this thing's washing down, getting a lot of fuel in the oil and diluting it, you will see lower oil pressure numbers. Now I want to make sure that the engine's healthy enough for him to continue spending money on it and make it worth doing all the other stuff before we go any further. All right, so I got the oil changed in it. We're going to see what happens. So let's see. I've already got it. The oil filter's primed, so it's full. It should get pressure right away. All right, we got 60 pounds, fluctuating between 60 and 65, and the fact that it started that easy with no choke, it's running too rich. We need to lean that out a little bit. So now I want to let this thing warm up a little bit so that we can get it up to temperature and see what it does at full temperature. All right, so now I've had this thing running for a little while. It's up to as high as it's going to get temperature-wise. We're sitting about 160, and it's been holding 160 for about the last 10 minutes. So we're showing about 50 pounds oil pressure now. Maybe 45 to 50. Now if we noticed before when I was blipping the throttle, it was actually dropping from 30 down to almost 25. Let's see what happens now. All right, so now it's going up to 65, 70. That's pretty much right where we want to see it. Now it just goes to show you that oil weight can make a difference on your oil pressure, and if it's washed down with fuel, it can have a big effect on it. So now that we've got what was potentially the most expensive problem figured out, we can start checking off the rest of the list. Now, I can't say for sure if this is the case on this car, but I do know the last guy that worked on this car was a non-MG mechanic, and he may have had the oil changed by them, you know, just a regular shop doing regular oil changes, and if so, they probably just threw 10W30 regular oil in it, which is not a good thing, because here in America, you know, the oil has changed. If you've seen my old video about modern oils, then just a 1030 off the shelf is not going to have enough zinc in it to protect the cam in one of these older cars with flat tappet cams. And these were actually built with the idea of running a 2050 in them. That's what was a recommended oil. And you put anything lighter in it, you're going to see a little bit less oil pressure. Now, my guess is that that guy may have changed the oil and either put a 530 or a 1030 in it. And then when he put the carburetor on, it's running too rich. Washed the cylinder walls down a little bit, got some fuel in it, and now it's even thinner, and that's why we're seeing the oil pressure problems that we were seeing. But actually, you can see now the engine is actually a pretty healthy engine.